In fact, there's an image of sin in the Old Testament that'll help us to understand that. In the Old Testament, one of the images for sin is to shoot an arrow and miss the bullseye. Conversion is not hitting the bullseye, it's getting closer to the bullseye. We get closer, and we get closer, and we get closer. That helps us to understand that our lifetime conversion is something that takes a lifetime. And we shouldn't beat ourselves up for not reaching that ideal yet. But the Beatitudes always call us to new conversion. And yet there's only one problem with the Beatitudes. They're still ideals. And most of the things we do in life are not for ideals, they're out of love. Give an example. During the Gulf War, a television reporter came up to a Marine colonel, and it was obvious what the reporter wanted. He wanted a sound bite, and what he really wanted to do was embarrass the colonel, take things out of context. He said to the colonel, "If the war starts, will your Marines kill Iraqis?" And the Marine colonel thought for a few minutes, and then he said, "Well, when the war starts, they will. But don't think they're doing it for mom and apple pie, and don't think they're doing it for democracy. If they kill Iraqis, it's because they want to protect their fellow Marines whom they love." Isn't that incredible? This big, burly Marine colonel talking about Marines who loved each other so much they'd be willing to die for each other or even kill for each other. You see, sin is about breaking love, not about breaking laws. When we sin, we hurt people. To use an image, when we sin, we tell God and the people around us that we're nothing but garbage. So we might as well act like garbage. Because that's what sin says, that I'm nothing but an animal. So I might as well act like that. And God doesn't believe that. But every time we say that, we hurt our relationship with God, we hurt our relationship with each other, and we even hurt the relationship with ourselves. Because we're putting ourselves down, making ourselves feel worse about ourselves. Now, who is the person who gets hurt most when we sin? Let me give 5 examples. I'll give the example first, then I'll give a commentary, and I think it'll show us who gets hurt when we sin. First example is little old lady. Her favorite snack in the world is an inch piece of stale pumpernickel bread and a ½ inch of home-rendered lard with an eighth of an inch of salt on top. This lady raised her family during the Depression, and during the Depression that was meat. But obviously she had high blood pressure. In fact, she was 5'3" by 5'3" by 5'3". Looked just like a weeble. And every day for the last 10 years of her life, this little old lady would cook her husband 2 fried eggs and 2 pieces of buttered toast. And her husband would say, "You know I only eat 1 egg." And she would say, "Oh, I forgot. I better eat the other one so it doesn't go to waste." She lived to be 82. Who did it hurt? Second example, Florida. My folks have retired to Florida. What is the #1 sport in Florida? A lot of people say high life, football, swimmings, water sports, anything like that. It's not. It's gossiping. These people sit around the swimming pool all day long, and they have a better information network than the KGB. So one lady calls another one and gossips about a third person. What's the harm? She's reaching out to touch someone. She's lonely. Example 3. 45-year-old guy wakes up one morning, and my God, he's married to a 45-year-old woman. She's gained 10 pounds since she's married, has crow's feet, and she's graying. Now, he doesn't look in the mirror. He's lost all his hair and gained 40 pounds, but he thinks he's still Don Juan. So he goes to the office. There's a 21-year-old gorgeous secretary, and he flirts with her. Nothing more. Who did it hurt? We'll get back to that. Fourth example. Your 18-year-old son comes home, and he's late. He was supposed to be home at 11. He shows up at 1 a.m. You haven't been able to sleep. You come to the door, open the door, and what's the first thing you smell? Not booze, not pot. Scope mouthwash. The kid's been washing his mouth out all the way up the sidewalk to cover whatever he did. Kids at 18 experiment. Who did it hurt? Fifth example, me. I'm supposed to have Mass on Easter Sunday at the local parish. And this is a mega parish. They have 4 Masses at the same time, all throughout Easter. supposed to be there at 9 o'clock, so I get in my car at 8:30, just getting ready to leave, and I get a phone call. And it's one of those emergency phone calls where you can't hang up. The person was suicidal. So I can't put the phone down until 5 of 9. Now the parish is 10 minutes away, and these are country roads, so I'm speeding down these country roads. This is Easter Sunday. Rabbit runs in front of the car. All I could think of, I almost killed the Easter bunny. I get there a few minutes late. Who did it hurt? Now let's go through these 5 examples. Example number 1, little old lady eating that lard sandwich. Every time this little old lady ate that sandwich, she as much as said to her family, this is more important than my being alive and being with you. Now I know this lady was a saint, but still she sinned against everyone who was around her family, her friends. Every time we don't keep our diet, every time we don't exercise, every time we don't go to the doctors when we should, we're sinning against those whom we most love, and we make ourselves lonelier. Example 2, gossiping. When I gossip about somebody, I can't look them in the eyes the next day. There's a distance that I've created. I'm embarrassed. It hasn't brought me closer. It's alienated me. And let's face it, when I'm gossiping to this person about that, this person knows that the second I stop gossiping, I'll gossip about that person. That in fact, I've become a gossip. I've made myself lonelier. Third example, 45-year-old guy flirting with the 21-year-old secretary. We don't even call it flirting anymore. It's called sexual harassment. And besides, what does the 21-year-old secretary think of him? What a jerk. And his wife knows. She doesn't know what she knows, but she can sense his guilt 3 blocks away. He's made himself lonelier. Fourth example, 18-year-old boy drinking, smoking, whatever he's doing. At the time in his life that he most needs the trust of his parents, he's pushed them away. Example 5, me speeding down a country road. There could have been a bicyclist, there could have been a jogger, there could have been somebody who took a wide curve. I wasn't concerned with that. I was only concerned with my own embarrassment. I sinned against anyone who could have been on that road. Because you see, sin is not about breaking laws. It's about breaking hearts. And the first heart we break is our own. We even see that in the story of Adam and Eve. Remember how Adam and Eve eat that apple and they sin? What's the first thing they do? They put on clothes and hide from God. They hide from the one who loves them the most because there's a distance between them. And then God says to Adam, why'd you do it? What does he say? It's her fault. You gave her to her. It's her fault. They were created to be companions. And they push each other in the way of a speeding train. And when God asks her, Eve, why'd you do it? She says it's the snake's fault. Notice alienation between us and God, alienation between us and each other, even alienation between us and nature, represented by that snake. Sin causes loneliness. Sin causes us to push away those who most love us. And we paint ourselves in the corner, and we're all alone.